upon you to everyone who is watching my video. I am Boyder Filmer from Management and Science University, responding to the We Care, We Do, We Love program. And in this video, we are looking into details about Down syndrome to learn more about these individuals.
Down syndrome is the most common chromosomal condition that exists in mankind. About 1 out of every 733 babies that are born have Down syndrome, which means that about 400,000 people with Down syndrome live in the United States today. And when someone has Down syndrome, it means that they might have certain medical aspects and conditions that go with it. About 50% of people born with Down syndrome will have a heart condition, and some people with Down syndrome will have some endocrine and some gastroenterology issues that need to be addressed. People with Down syndrome sometimes have some developmental milestones that take a little bit longer to reach, and sometimes they require some extra help in the classroom. But what mothers and fathers who have children with Down syndrome say is that extra chromosome that causes it also brings a lot of lessons in patience, perseverance, and love. Chromosomes are the packages in every one of our cells that contains the information that tells our body what to do. And most of us have 2 sets of 23 chromosomes. 23 come from our father and 23 come from our mother. And they're numbered in each cell 1 through 22, with the 23rd being the chromosome that determines whether or not we're going to be a boy or a girl. Most people with Down syndrome have 3 copies of the 21st chromosome, meaning that they have a total of 47 chromosomes rather than 46. And with that extra chromosomes comes some of the medical challenges and some of the learning challenges, but with that extra chromosome also comes some of the possibilities that people with Down syndrome have too. So the American College of Obstetrics and Gynecology and the American College of Medical Genetics last year recommended that all women, regardless of age, be offered prenatal testing. So while the prenatal testing is not mandatory, all obstetricians are encouraged to offer the test to all pregnant mothers that come in for the first time. So now, pregnant mothers, when they go in, they will have a whole menu of options to choose from. And there is a menu, and I encourage them to work closely with their doctors to understand what the test means and what the results mean before they choose to sign on. Most mothers who have a child with Down syndrome learn about the diagnosis after the child is born, and that's a postnatal diagnosis. And that diagnosis is made by a neonatologist or a pediatrician who does a physical exam and sees some characteristics in the baby that looks like the baby has Down syndrome. And that could be confirmed by getting a blood test called a karyotype, where scientists are able, through a microscope, to count the number of chromosomes and confirm that the baby has Down syndrome. But there are a growing number of mothers who learn prenatally, that's before the child is born, that the baby has Down syndrome. And there are many options and many tests available. I like to divide them into the appetizer category and the main entree category. In the appetizer category, you have the prenatal screens. These are tests that a mother could get that will give her the chances or the odds that her fetus has Down syndrome. So she might get a result that says, ma'am, you have a 1 in 270, or you have a 1 in 1,422 chance that your fetus has Down syndrome. Then, based on that appetizer result, the mother could decide if she wants a definitive answer prenatally, and 2 options exist. She could get an amniocentesis or a chorionic villus sampling, and both of these tests will give a 100% definitive result on whether or not the fetus has Down syndrome. But many mothers are sometimes reluctant to choose one of these tests because they both carry up to about a 1% risk of causing a spontaneous termination or a miscarriage. So when a mother goes to her obstetrician now, there is a whole menu of options, and I recommend that they work closely with their obstetrician to understand what the tests are and what results they will get before they decide to take the test. Parents who have children with Down syndrome can expect that their child might need a little extra help in the classroom. And when they're very young, we enroll them in early intervention, which is an intensive therapy for physical therapy, occupational therapy, and speech therapy. And in the classroom, they'll often need extra supports and help. Parents can also expect that their child with Down syndrome might have some medical conditions that need to be followed up by a specialist or by a doctor who knows Down syndrome very well. But parents can also expect that all of their conceptions about what is important in life will be changed and altered. Parents have told me that their sons and daughters with Down syndrome have really changed what they thought about what is important in life. So I think they can expect their child to be one of their greatest life coaches. Over the last several decades, people with Down syndrome have had more opportunities than ever before, and I attribute that to three major things. First, people with Down syndrome are no longer being institutionalized. They're being brought home and they're being loved and cared for by their family. Second, we have advances in medical technology, and 50% of babies with Down syndrome are born with a heart condition, but nearly all of those conditions can now be corrected through surgical advances. And therefore, people with Down syndrome, thanks to medicine, are living longer, healthier lives than ever before. And the third reason is people with Down syndrome are now being included in the classroom, co-educated along with their peers without Down syndrome. And because of that, they're realizing academic potential that had never been tapped before. And the result is that people with Down syndrome can now live independently and are now securing jobs in the workforce. We know that there are people with Down syndrome who are holding jobs on their own. There are people with Down syndrome who could drive automobiles, people with Down syndrome who have gotten married, and people with Down syndrome who are living independently. But what I like to remind parents is that's what's most important in life. We know that those possibilities exist, but just as all of us have a range of talents, so too do people with Down syndrome. And perhaps what's most important is not the fact that they can drive a car, or that they can get married, or that they can live independently, but the fact that they are happy and living fulfilling lives. And when you ask someone with Down syndrome, they really say that they enjoy their life and they enjoy what they're doing. I have two wonderful sisters, and Kristen, my younger sister with Down syndrome, truly is a life coach. I have learned so many lessons that I think about still to this day, especially when I'm walking the halls here at Children's Hospital Boston. Kristen teaches me how to keep on going when times are tough. She teaches me how to smile and laugh when others are frowning. She teaches me how to stand up for myself when others perhaps say sit down. And Kristen is someone who on a daily basis battles people who might not understand her true potential, but she continues to show me, and I try to translate that to others, that if you believe in yourself, you can achieve your dreams. A few years back, I sent surveys out to mothers around the country who have children with Down syndrome, and I asked, how did you get the diagnosis of Down syndrome? What did your doctors do that were right? And what improvements do you think the medical community can make? And over 1,000 mothers responded to my survey. And unfortunately, the majority of them said that the information they got about Down syndrome was either incomplete, inaccurate, or sometimes offensive. And the Down syndrome that they have known today, the possibilities and the realities that they know exist in today's time, was not the information that they got either prenatally or postnatally. So I think it was a call to arms where mothers have said to physicians like myself around the country, there are ways that we can improve.